Article 11, employee expenses. The categories for reimbursable expenses are under personal automobile expenses. The rate is set at 40 cents per mile, and you claim your reimbursement by your odometer readings. However, the Milo Mileage Guidebook or web-based services may be used for calculating your mileage, and they also may be used for checking the accuracy of your mileage reimbursement. So just be aware of that. Parking and tolls for work-related business are also reimbursable. Travel for temporary assignment from home. If you're assigned to a temporary work assignment, your travel is calculated from your home or your office address, but the actual calculation is based on whichever is less. So if your house is closer to the temporary assignment, that would be the calculation for the mileage. Meal allowances are available and for reimbursement if you are absent from home for more than 24 hours. And there's differentiation, in-state assignments or out-of-state assignments. With out-of-state assignments, there's a per diem that's attached for the day, and the per diem is $24.50 per day. In-state, the meal allowances are stated in the contract, so I advise you to look carefully at Article 11 for all of these reimbursables. The biggest concern that the Commonwealth has is that our members file for your reimbursement in a timely manner, and they are now on the hook for saying that, that they will definitely get the reimbursement to you in approximately 60 days, or at least within 60 days. So it's imperative that you file for your reimbursement, not hold on to these things for half a year or for a year, as I've known in some cases. It wreaks havoc with their budget forecasting with the agency. So submit them for timely reimbursement as quickly as you possibly can. Let me turn things over to David Young to look at it from an administrative perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Greg has covered most of the high points in the article. I'll just share with you where I've encountered problems from a management point of view. The shortest distance rule is the most common problem with mileage reimbursement. As Greg said, it's your travel was calculated from your home or your office, whichever is shorter in distance, and that's regardless of where you actually start from. So be aware of that. That can cause difficulties with your reimbursement. Employees are also entitled to reasonable costs associated with parking. Now, in my experience, some agencies set what they call a reasonable rate for parking, which is actually a cap. You are entitled to reasonable reimbursement for your parking. It all depends on where you're parking. The rates in Boston are going to be different than the rates in Framingham. So reasonable is whatever the particular location provides for. Likewise, the agency cannot limit you to the mileage as computed by one of these online travel services. Some agencies actually require employees to produce a web-based calculation of distance and use that instead of the actual distance traveled. As Greg said, the agency can use one of these web-based services to verify the accuracy of your travel, but that doesn't mean you can't be compensated for your actual travel. In terms of reimbursement, keep all your receipts. If you don't have receipts, that will complicate your reimbursement. Likewise, submit your reimbursement vouchers in a timely fashion. This is a major headache for management as well as the employee. If you save up 6 months worth of travel, management's going to look at that with a very sharp eye and try to compare it to your schedule to see if you were actually on the road on that particular day. So submit them on a regular basis, submit them timely. And for out-of-state travel, be sure to make sure you get all the approvals in advance. If you don't have all the approvals in advance, that's going to complicate your reimbursement as well. The most interesting case I ever had on travel was an employee who was submitting reimbursements for travel from the office to temporary assignments. It came to light that he was actually using his bicycle instead of his vehicle. And his response was that he was trying to be environmentally friendly and using his bicycle instead of his car, which is reasonable, but at the same time there's no provision in the contract for a bicycle reimbursement. So he was required to pay back to the state the reimbursements he got for riding his bicycle. And that's the most interesting case I had. Thank you, Greg.
Rather entertaining, actually. Richard, would you like to add anything to?
Sure, there's just a couple of things I would add here on the expense topic. First of all, the meal allowances as provided in the contract are, quite frankly, unrealistically low. But in our recent contract negotiations, the state was not willing to raise the meal allowances to anything close to a realistic level. But we just have to abide by those until we can do better in the next contract. The other issue is in terms of submitting your expense vouchers promptly, as both David and Greg have mentioned. It's very important to do that, particularly at the end of the fiscal year, because agencies can run into trouble when the fiscal year closes and they get expense vouchers turned in for fiscal 2015 and early fiscal 2016. The budget year is closed, so you might wind up in a situation where you have to wait until the legislature has passed a supplemental budget so you can get your expenses for FY15, even though it's now turned into FY16. That's a place where you don't want to be, because submitting your expense vouchers late in the fiscal year can cause you troubles and can cause delay. So I would just echo what Greg and David have said, which is get your expense vouchers in as soon as you possibly can to have the best possible chance of getting a prompt reimbursement.
Well, thank you, Richard. After all these caveats, you can see how important it is to read the contract and look at the specific provisions in the contract. And if you can't quite get a good reading from that, then certainly call the office, speak with me, David, or Richard, and any of our national representatives here at NAGE, and we will help guide you through the process of representing a member in one of these articles.